I never imagined that I would become the focal point of our infamous HOA president's attention. But here we are. Karen Wilkins had wielded her authority over Sunnyside Estates with an iron grip for nearly 5 years. A woman in her mid-50s, she sported a perpetually pursed mouth and a distinctive blonde bob with chunky highlights. It seemed she thrived on the power that her position afforded her. Most neighbors either feared her or avoided her altogether. Unfortunately, I had become her latest fixation. It all began 3 months ago when I replaced my water-guzzling lawn with native wildflowers, following all the architectural committee's guidelines and receiving proper approval. Despite this, Karen took personal offense. "Those weeds are lowering property values," she asserted during our first confrontation, her voice dripping with disdain as she stood on my doorstep, clipboard clutched to her chest. Calmly, I presented her with the approval documentation, which seemed to only irritate her further. Her eyes narrowed as she scrutinized the paperwork, searching for any loophole to exploit. "We'll see about this," she declared with a tight smile before abruptly turning away. That initial encounter marked my entry into her radar, but I had no inkling of how far she would go. Over the ensuing weeks, I received 4 separate violation notices for increasingly absurd infractions. My garbage can was visible for what she deemed an excessive period after collection, 45 minutes to be exact. My garden hose wasn't neatly stowed during a brief watering break. Even my welcome mat didn't adhere to the approved color palette. Each time I responded with photographic evidence disproving her claims or demonstrating compliance with actual HOA rules, copying the entire board on my emails. Other board members began to notice the pattern of harassment, and Karen's complaints were met with growing skepticism. This only fueled her determination to catch me in a legitimate violation. I started noticing her silver SUV creeping slowly past my house, her silhouette visible as she scrutinized my property for any possible infraction. Neighbors began texting warnings whenever they saw her approaching. It would have been comical if it hadn't been so genuinely stressful. Last month, I had finally planned a vacation after 2 long years, a 10-day trip to visit my sister in Colorado. I made all the necessary arrangements, including hiring Jaime, a graduate student recommended by a colleague, to house sit and care for my elderly cat, Merlin. Initially, I joked with Jaime about Karen, but as her behavior escalated, I grew increasingly serious. "If she comes to the door, don't engage," I instructed Jaime the day before my departure. "Just say I'm away, and any HOA matters can wait until I return." Jaime, glasses perched on her nose, nodded reassuringly. "Don't worry. I deal with difficult personalities all the time." Little did we know what Karen was capable of. 3 days into my vacation, while enjoying a peaceful hike in the Rocky Mountains, my phone buzzed with an incoming call from Jaime. Assuming it was about Merlin's medication, I stepped off the trail to answer. "Hey Jaime, everything okay?" I asked, the distant sounds of my sister's family fading as I moved away. "Not exactly," Jaime replied, her voice tense. "I need to tell you what just happened with your HOA president." My stomach clenched. "What did Karen do now?" I inquired, my voice steady despite the rising dread. "She let herself into your house," Jaime said, her voice trembling with a mix of anger and disbelief. "I was reading in the backyard, and when I came inside, she was in your living room taking photos." My blood ran cold, then boiled. "How did she get in, and where is she now?" I demanded, my anger barely contained. "She claimed she had a master key as HOA president and the right to inspect properties for rule violations," Jaime explained. "She said there was a report of water leaking into a neighbor's yard from your house." I knew immediately this was a lie. HOA presidents don't have master keys, and my house was situated on higher ground. Water couldn't flow uphill. "What did you do?" "That's why I'm calling," Jaime continued, a note of satisfaction creeping into her voice. "When I confronted her, I told her she was trespassing and needed to leave. She refused and insisted she had every right to be there, so I called the police. I was stunned." "You called the police on Karen?" "Of course," Jaime affirmed firmly. "She broke into your house. The police just left. They took her away in handcuffs." I cut my vacation short by 2 days, much to my sister's disappointment but understanding. I needed to deal with this in person. When I returned home, Jaime filled me in on the details. Karen had used a credit card to Jimmy open my side door, a technique she claimed to have seen in a movie and thought would work for emergencies. The responding officers had given her multiple chances to leave peacefully, but Karen had insisted on her authority as HOA president, even citing imaginary bylaws to justify her intrusion. She was arrested for breaking and entering, criminals, trespassing, and resisting arrest after attempting to push past an officer. The next day, Detective Rodriguez called me. Further investigation had revealed photographs of other homes' interiors on Karen's phone, all taken while the owners were away. She had been conducting these illegal inspections for months, noting supposed violations and personal details about residents' lives and belongings. This goes beyond an HOA matter, Detective Rodriguez explained professionally but with clear disdain. This is a pattern of criminal behavior. She's facing multiple charges of breaking and entering, trespassing, and invasion of privacy. Given her position, the district attorney is taking this very seriously. I decided to attend Karen's arraignment partly out of curiosity and partly to see justice served. The courtroom was packed, with many residents present, some of whom had also endured Karen's harsh treatment over the years. When Karen entered in an orange jumpsuit, she looked nothing like the imperious figure who had once wielded her clipboard with authority. Her carefully styled hair fell flat, and without makeup she seemed much older and smaller. She avoided eye contact until she spotted me in the gallery. For a brief moment our gazes locked, and I saw defiance mixed with fear in her eyes. The judge set her bail at $50,000, citing the serial nature of her offenses and breach of community trust. As the charges were read, 12 counts of breaking and entering, trespassing, 1 count of resisting arrest, and multiple privacy violations, Karen's shoulders slumped further with each new accusation. Her public defender looked increasingly grim as the prosecutor detailed how Karen had abused her authority to intimidate residents while violating their most basic privacy rights. The most satisfying moment came when the judge addressed Karen directly. "Mrs. Wilkins, you seem to have fundamentally misunderstood the scope of your authority and the rights of your neighbors," the judge admonished sternly. "An HOA president is not above the law and certainly has no right to enter private residences without explicit permission. You're facing up to 5 years in state prison and fines exceeding $25,000. At those words, Karen's composure finally shattered. Her face crumpled and she emitted an audible gasp that reverberated through the courtroom. "But I was just enforcing the rules," she protested weakly, barely audible. "The bylaws do not supersede state law or the Constitution, Mrs. Wilkins." The judge interjected sharply. "This court suggests you familiarize yourself with both before your trial. In the United States, a homeowners association, HOA, is an organization within a residential community that manages shared spaces, enforces rules, and collects dues to maintain neighborhood standards. While intended to preserve property values and ensure a tidy, cohesive appearance, HOAs are often criticized for overreach, lack of transparency, and abuse of power. Many Americans report negative experiences with HOAs, including excessive fines for minor violations, harassment from board members, invasive restrictions on personal property, and even the threat of foreclosure over unpaid dues. These associations can feel more like authoritarian regimes than community organizations, especially when led by individuals who use their position to exert control rather than serve residents. Though some appreciate the order and amenities HOAs provide, many see them as a source of unnecessary stress, conflict, and financial burden. To effectively deal with an HOA, homeowners association in America, it's crucial to be informed, proactive, and professional. Start by thoroughly reading and understanding your community's governing documents, including the CC&Rs, covenants, conditions, and restrictions, which define your rights and the HOA's authority. Always keep detailed records of correspondence. Take photos to document compliance, and respond to violation notices respectfully and in writing. Attending HOA meetings and voting in board elections can give you a voice, and if problems persist, especially with overreach or harassment, don't hesitate to file formal complaints, involve neighbors, or consult a real estate attorney. Above all, remain calm and assertive, as a well-informed homeowner is far harder to intimidate or manipulate. Homeowners associations, HOAs in America, are meant to maintain property values and ensure uniform standards within residential communities. But their impact is mixed and often controversial. On one hand, HOAs can provide valuable services like landscaping, security, and community amenities, and help neighborhoods stay clean and organized. However, many Americans experience them as overly rigid, bureaucratic, and sometimes even abusive. Enforcement, excessive fines, lack of transparency, and authoritarian behavior by HOA board members can create conflict and stress, especially when power is misused. Navigating an HOA successfully requires homeowners to be well informed, keep records, and engage professionally with the board. While some people find peace of mind in the order HOAs provide, Others view them as intrusive entities that limit personal freedom and create unnecessary tension in what should be peaceful living. Spaces. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button, and I see you all in the next video.